My God, marriage will have you like looking at yourself in the mirror, like, who is she? Because that's not me. That ain't me.
That ain't me.
Once you're married, you have no problems. I genuinely believe, I don't know if it's my
Really?
own delusion. I genuinely went into the picture, especially I was like, we have done things God's way, right? Okay. We will have no problems. There will be no arguments. I married a man of God, okay? He'll be praying over the family. I'll be sleeping. He'll be downstairs singing in tongues, okay?
I believe that the Lord has entrusted me with wealth because of how I view money.
Welcome, Tawanga. Welcome to Herseason podcast.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm nervous, so yeah. Just a little heads up.
This is just a conversation. Just pretend like it's not recorded. It's just a conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. It's a catch up. We haven't spoken properly in a long time, so we're just catching up.
We're just catching up. How are you arriving today? How are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy day work-wise, but I'm good. I feel good within myself. It's hot, which I shouldn't be complaining because all we do is cry about the weather in the UK, and then when it gets a bit sunny, we're all like, "Oh my gosh, it's so hot." I'm definitely
such a British culture. Like, it is British to complain, whether it's hot or cold.
Yep.
We must complain about the weather.
Absolutely, the weather.
The weather. Perfect. So thank you for coming on the podcast. And this is just a girl chat, just me and you. Forget everything else.
Yes.
And before we get started, I have some icebreaker questions just to ease us in. And the first question is, if you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Okay, that's very difficult, but I would say rice and peas with oxtail, coleslaw and plantain.
Okay, and why?
It's just homey. It makes you full. It feels home cooked even when you order it. It's a hearty meal. It's nutritious. It has everything that you need. And I'm just a little African girly, so I love real food that feels sustainable, that feels hearty. And yeah, shout out to my Caribbeans. Y'all did your big one with that one. Did your big one.
That is a very good choice. I do like that one. Okay. Favorite Bible character?
Oof. Outside of Jesus, Paul.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, outside of Jesus.
Paul. That question, I don't stutter. Like, I don't need to think about it. I don't need time. It's Paul, and it will always be Paul.
Why?
For several reasons. I identify with Paul.
So we can relate. I can.
I'm not out anybody. So I think whenever I read any of Paul's letters to the church, I think thing I always pick up is his heart for the body. He loves the body, and all his correction and all his frustration comes from a place of love. He wants to see the church that he's writing to do better. He's calling them to higher. He's a leader. And I think the Lord has given me a very similar heart for the church. It breaks my heart when I see the church acting and functioning outside of the original order that God intended. I hate when I see chaos in the church. I hate when I see dysfunction, because I just know that God loves the church so much. And so, yeah, I understand Paul when he's yelling at everybody in Ephesians and Corinth. I get him. I'm like, you have every right to be upset, sir. They're doing a lot. Like, I get it. I'll be writing letters too. So yeah,
it's interesting you say that though, because I've been reading 1 Corinthians. I started reading it this morning again, and I was just like, wow, he has such a patience and a heart, because imagine people doing helter skelter, and you're just constantly with love encouraging them. No division, just love. Preach Jesus. Forget about all of these drama, the division, just Jesus. Focus on Jesus. That requires a lot of love, a lot of grace, a lot of patience. a lot of patience.
What frustrates him the most is that he's not writing to people he doesn't know. These are people that he's discipled. These are people that he's set up. He's come and planted these churches. So there's this expectation of like, you know better. You better. I'm the one that has, led you guys. Like, you know what the standard is. You've seen it. You've seen how I live. Like, and so I get him. Honestly, I'm a Paul sympathizer. Like, absolutely.
I'd absolutely like throwing things out. Yeah,
I'm less patient than him. Honestly, I would have shut the whole church down, taken the keys, locked the building.
That's it. I'm out of here. Like, no, we tried. It's not working. I'm out of here. Okay, let's try somewhere else. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, if you could name a book after yourself, what would it be?
Any book. So the title of what my life would be.
Yeah.
Oh, that one I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Okay. I know, and it's such a I feel like it's a question that's asked quite a lot, but I've just never asked it to myself. Man, I'm sweating. Okay. I'm trying to think
of what the title would be. I'm sweating.
I would call it Oh, that's so hard. Okay, can I name the book based on my current season? Because I feel like naming it after my entire life has gone through different chapters and phases, and so I'm just like, okay, if it had to be this phase of my life,
or maybe are there any themes?
Okay, yes, I can do that. I think again, currently the phase that I'm in is I am really learning what the abundant grace of the Lord looks like, what grace really looks like. And I think I'm a baby, like a church baby. I was born on the altar kind of vibe. And so I think something like grace, I sometimes I can be nonchalant about it, and I get used to it. Like, Jesus died so that we could, have abundant life, and God forgives us. And it's just part of my normal life. But I think there's seasons where I really learn what grace looks like. And so I think I would name my book Abundant Grace, because I feel like I've seen the grace of the Lord over my life in different spaces and ways. And so, the title of my book would be Abundant Grace. Yeah.
I love that.
That wasn't as hard as I thought it would be.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last question is, what did you want to be when you grew up, or when you were younger?
Okay, so nothing that I'm doing now, which is really funny. When I was really, really young, I wanted to be a lawyer. I decided I wanted to use my mouth for something productive, because I was always told that I talked a lot from primary school. So I thought, well, I might as well capitalize on this mouth of mine. So I wanted to be a lawyer. And then more specifically, as I went into high school, I wanted to be an immigration lawyer. Again, just having a really big heart for justice and understanding migration, being an immigrant myself. And just really feeling like I wanted to defend and fight for the rights of people in that space. And then I think that kind of changed around A-level times into university, where my heart was very mission-centered. I wanted to work for an NGO. I wanted to work for the United Nations, do stuff around development. Yeah, so I went and got a master's in international development, because I really wanted to work with like charities and organizations that were trying to do work in different communities to help them to develop. So I think it's always been around people and justice. Those are the kind of the themes of my life: people and justice, and the advocating for the rights of the vulnerable. So lawyer / like NGO worker.
Okay. And what I'm picking up there is you've always wanted to work with people, providing justice, which is interesting, because that's kind of linked somehow to what you do now, right now. And I know I haven't introduced you. You are, and actually, who are you? That's my segue conversation. Tawanga is this amazing person, works with young people, and does all of these things. Is an entrepreneur from a young age. I remember seeing you on social media from like your early 20s, and you were running your own business. And I was like, who is this person who's just so entrepreneurial, so just like very go-getter, very driven? And I was like, I want to know her. And I didn't know how we stumbled. I don't know how, but we stumbled upon each other. So who is Tawanga?
That's such a good question. Such a good question. I think outside of the entrepreneurial vibe, I would say Tavonga is a disciple. I love the Lord a lot. I've loved him since I was 5. So we're 25 years in. Yeah, we've been logged in for 25 years. I gave my life to Jesus when I was 5 years old. And so I would say I'm a disciple first. I try to live that way. I'm a wife. I'm married to the sweetest man in the universe, the most quietest, most introverted opposite of who I am, by the way. So quiet, so sweet, so loving, so patient. Again, the opposite of everything that I am. And then I'm a friend. I think that's a big part of my life. Friendship community is a massive part of how I live. I'm a very big advocate for chosen family, of doing life with people. So yeah, I would say disciple, wife, friend, before anything else. And then the entrepreneurial and business stuff definitely comes after.
Thank you. And I think, how did you love the Lord at 5 years old? I find that so mind-blowing.
No.
Like having a 6-year-old and like how young he is.
Mm-hmm.
Like what does that mean? Like what did that look like, saying that you gave your life to Jesus at 5? And like how did you understand the concept of Jesus at 5 years old and continue to like love him all throughout your teens and adulthood? Because you know it can be a bumpy ride. Yeah.
Yeah. And the world be trying to pull you.
The world, no, honestly, many people have started, but not many people have continued on the path of being a lover and a follower of Jesus Christ.
Definitely. Honestly, shout out to my mom.
Really?
Yeah, this is Rosemary's workmanship. My mom loves the Lord more than anybody that I know. And I always say to parents, like, if you want your children to love him, you have to live it. There's actually just no other way. You can take them to church, you can force them to go to Bible study, you can force them to go to youth, you can force them to go to Sunday school, you can do all those things, but if they don't see Jesus in you, it just will not work. My mom loves him, and my mom was the type of parent that I would hear her praying at 4 a.m. She would wake up at 3 and she would pray. She'd wake up at 4, she'd wake up at 5, and I would hear her praying in the house at all times, in different seasons, and good seasons and bad seasons. I tell people these stories all the time, but I grew up like literally going to like Benny Hinn crusades, Morris Cerullo, you know, Bonky. Like we would go to America. Like my parents were committed to the process. We would go to America, to these crusades, to these conferences. I grew up seeing a lot of healing, a lot of prophetic ministries at a very young age. Grew up understanding who the Holy Spirit was, how he moved in power and authority. Grew up hearing tongues around me. And so just kind of in a very Pentecostal environment. And I saw how my mum was, and I thought, no, this has to be real, because no one can commit this much of their life and their time and their resources and their money, and this is not real. It can't be. You can't pay for a flight ticket for a family of 4 to go all the way to Chicago to go listen to Reinhard Bonnke, and this is not real. Like, why would you, right? It's too expensive. It's unjustifiable. If this is not real, then she's mad. Like, those were the 2 options.
Either she's crazy,
even
or
Jesus
this has to be real,
or my mother is crazy, and there is no in between. And so I decided to try him for myself, and I realized he was real. And I remember saying to my mom, I want to give my life to Jesus. And she led me through the prayer, and I would literally ask her and beg her to wake me up to pray with her at 4 a.m. And she'd be like, no, you have to sleep because you're going to school. And I would beg her to fast. When she is fasting, I would beg her to fast. And she'd say to me, okay, you can fast, but you have to break a fast at 12 o'clock when you're at school. You can't not eat, because if you don't eat at school, they're going to 5. Yep, they're going to call me and say something is wrong.
Why is it?
And I'm like, and she'd be like, and you can't tell anybody that you're fasting, because you didn't want to get in trouble with the school.
Like, how do you explain that?
I would go to school and they would hand out around 11 a.m. They would hand out fruit and milk as kind of like an 11 a.m. snack. And I would just say, no, thank you. And they're like, are you sure? But no, thank you, because I was told you can't tell anybody. And so I
Wow.
mirrored a lot of what I was seeing my mum do. And then I think when I started encountering the Lord for myself and actually experiencing him and being like, oh, wait, this is real. And I was a child, obviously, so I didn't have the language that I do now at, 31 to say, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm feeling. But I knew what it felt like when I was praying. I knew what it felt like when I would worship. I knew what it felt like. My mom would take me to all-night prayers, and it didn't matter if I fell asleep. She was like, I'd rather you sleep in the presence than sleep at home. So she would just put a coat. There wasn't even any blanket. She would put a coat over me. It's someone's
Sleep
random
wherever
house.
you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the sofa, on the chair. And I would fall asleep, and then I would wake up and I would carry on praying with the adults, and I would fall back asleep.
Wow.
And this was just a lot of my childhood. This is what we did. We literally just followed Jesus and followed our parents as they followed him.
That's really made me think, having two young children. I think we underestimate how much they see and how much they learn just from being around. Like, sometimes it's not even just you teaching them. They observe their environment and they will be a product of their environment. And I think you just made me think a little bit deeper, actually, on how intentional I am with my kids. Because I remember, funny you said that about fasting. My son asked me the other day about fasting, and I was like, oh, like no, you'll fast when you're older. But actually, could he fast now?
He could.
I mean,
He's not going to die if he doesn't eat.
He's 6, right? But actually, I was like, no, like, you'll do it later. But actually, he probably could miss breakfast, right? Like, and he'll be perfectly fine.
Not about necessarily the food itself, right? You're teaching him a discipline. You're teaching him that Jesus is better than anything else that you're being offered. So Jesus is better than breakfast. Yeah, Jesus is better than the comfort and that you feel when you're full. And that's the principle you're installing. It's not necessarily about the food. And if he's someone who, like, if he uses his iPad or he loves a certain game, you can start fasting or things like that. Like, we're not going to have iPad time for 3 days because you're going to fast that. You're going to sacrifice that. And during that time, why don't you spend time just worshiping? I'll play some music for you. And you sit in the corner and you just talk to Jesus for that 30-minute window that you're going to be on your iPad. It's teaching him that whatever you're being offered, Jesus is better than that thing. And that's literally what my mom kept teaching me. He's better than sleep. He's better than food. He's better than the comfort of your bed. He's worthy to lie on the floor for a couple of hours in an uncomfortable position in a random living room somewhere. He's just better. And I think once you learn that, you keep that for the rest of your life. And even when the world wants you to taste a little bit of what it's offering, you've tasted the living water and you believe that it is better than anything else. And that's what worked. That's how my mom grabbed me, and I've never turned back.
I love that. So during the teenage years, at no point did you think, maybe there's something else out there? Like, maybe another religion has the answers, or actually this is just a bit too much for me?
I am one of those boring people with the boring testimony, guys. So if you're listening and you're
Never?
you're waiting for the little drug,
Never.
No, instead, when I was 16, I became a youth leader. Very cliche.
Intensify.
I became a youth leader at 16. I actually went to boarding school very soon after. And when I was in boarding school, I was, again, really passionate about people. And so I approached my house parents and I told them I wanted to start a mentorship program. And now I look back and I'm like, at 16, who was I trying to mentor? Because
wow. I mean, other 16-year-olds and under?
Yeah, so we started, so I was in year 12. So we started our mentorship program mentoring year 10, 9, 10, and 11. And I created a poster on Word, and we put it around the school, asking for people who wanted to be mentors and also asking for people who wanted mentorship. And so we would go out every single Wednesday. So I was in boarding, so we lived obviously on campus. So we would go over to the house of the key stage underneath us, and we would do this 1-hour mentorship sessions, and we'll talk about self-esteem, we'll talk about relationships and self-worth and boys and all these things. And I couldn't overtly be like Jesus because it wasn't a Christian school. But I would talk about my faith, and I would always find a way to kind of say, for me, what helps me is prayer, or, for me, what's really helped me is trusting Jesus in this way. But, you're free to believe what you want to believe. But really, I was an evangelist from a young age.
You can do it, but for me, this is what's what. Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, so from a very young age, honestly, I think the Lord has been very merciful. And I said the title of my book would have to be Abundant Grace. So I've seen the grace of the Lord. I think I didn't appreciate it back then, the way that I do now. That I was really saved from a lot of trauma. I think that a lot of people experienced, and I didn't have to heal from a lot of things that a lot of people had to heal from. My parents took me to a very small private school from about year 8. It was a Christian school. There was 5 of us in the entire year group. Our teachers were Christians. You know, we prayed before class. We had a worship session before school started. Every term we had to learn a long passage, and it was a memory verse and all of this stuff. And so they really put me in environments where I was very shielded. And yeah, the Lord was just kind of always a priority. So by the time I had the freedom of choice, like when I went to uni, I never did Freshers Fair. I never went clubbing the whole 3 years at university. Instead, I was president of the Christian Union. And I know,
can see that.
so cliche.
I can see that. I love it though.
Cliche. And so, yeah, absolutely boring testimony, but very grateful for it now at 30. I'm like, I couldn't handle, unlearning and, healing from all that trauma. Thank you, Jesus. I didn't see what you were doing, but now I do.
And what would you say? Because there's this notion around, and I certainly was like grew up around the church and always went to church. Like Christianity has always been, and Jesus has not really Christianity, but Jesus has always been part of my life. But there is a sense, and I speak to quite a lot of young people where they're like, you know what, this is boring. I want to experience what's in the world, and I want to have a taste of the good life, as they may say. Like, what would you say to maybe someone who's younger than you, who feels like they are being like oppressed by having to go to church every day, having to read their Bible, and like kind of being forced to go to church? Because I mean, there are times where I say, "Mama, I don't want to go to church." As long as you live in my house, you're going to church.
Honestly, I think you can't force somebody, and you can't teach someone how to love Jesus. I think what needs to happen is that they have to encounter him. A phrase that my husband and I use a lot is seeing his face. I feel like once you've seen his face, once you've locked eyes with him, it is really hard to look away. And so if you're still in that process of like, I don't know if I want to do this, I don't want to go to church, there's a good chance you haven't seen him in his totality. There's such a beauty in Jesus that there's no way you can stare at his beauty and honestly want to look away. Because the stuff is always going to be there, keeping in mind. It's not going anywhere. The temptations of the world, they don't leave. Whether you're 16, whether you're 65, whether you're 26, there's always something that is pulling at your attention. But it goes back to what I was saying to you about what you're teaching your children, is that he is better than those things. And so it's unfortunate that a lot of this stuff is trial and error and experience. So I could give a message to that young person and say, look, Jesus is the best thing that could ever happen to you. But until they've experienced him, it won't make sense to them. Until they've encountered and seen his face for themselves, it won't make a difference. So my advice would be, ask the Lord to reveal himself to you in totality. And if you taste and see that he's good and you still want to go and try, then please be our guest. But we'll welcome you back when you're ready, because we know you're going to come back. Because one thing about the world is that it's going to offer you everything and then it's going to spit you right back out. And so
take everything from you and then spit you out dry.
And so we will just open our arms and we'll receive you back. And we'll be like, how was that? It wasn't great, right? It's okay.
The prodigal son coming back.
Exactly.
And I feel this. I think I think there's a difference. Well, no, I think there's a difference between religion and relationship, like true, genuine relationship. I remember going off to university, and that was the first time having, freedom. And I was thinking, I'm gonna live my best life. I'm gonna do all of these things, and I didn't really necessarily have a relationship with God there. And I remember like really wanting to go to like Freshers Week and like being so excited. I went to one Freshers event, and I was like, I don't enjoy, like I was forcing myself to enjoy it, and I was like, I don't actually enjoy this. And I remember going home, and at some point I was just crying out to Jesus. I was like, right, I'm at uni. It's either I'm really going to be for you and have a relationship with you. I don't want to know you as, the God of my mother. Jesus just has no grandchildren. I'm either going to have a relationship with you, so I need you to show me who you really are, because I don't want to waste like 4 years doing nonsense at university. I want to know who you really are. I want to have a relationship with you. And I actually remember just having such an encounter in my room, and like I knew without a shadow of doubt that Jesus was real at that moment. And I couldn't, like he just like I couldn't. From that time, I never went. It just wasn't there. The desire, it wasn't there at all.
Yep. Yeah, he does that. He will literally give you a palette just for him. Like he would change your taste buds. Like even when you try these other things, you like so you force yourself. You're like you have to make such an effort to enjoy them because your palette does not.
Watching other people enjoying themselves, and I was like, "Is this? Can I go? When is it socially acceptable for me to go home? Because this is not for me." It was uncomfortable. Yeah, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Yeah. Okay, so. How has your relationship with God affected your marriage?
Ooh. Yeah, like how does that play in? I met my husband
before getting married.
Okay. Even before getting married. I met my husband when I was 11 years old on the bus going to school. I had a crush on him because he had dimples, and I just thought dimples were the cutest thing in the world. When I was 16, the Lord told me he was my husband. Started giving me very specific prophecy, very specific dreams. I would write down these prophecies, write down these dreams. What I didn't know is that around the same time the Lord told him. But he was a PK, like he was the stereotypical PK that is like, I want to rebel and I want to live my best life. And then when I'm like 30, I'll repent and I'll come back to the Lord. But right now I want to have fun. So the Lord tells him that I'm his wife. And he's like, Tav is so serious. Like, God, come on. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have fun. And so his thing was like, I'm going to go have fun and date all these other girls and live my little best life. And once I'm ready to get serious, I'll look into this whole Tav situation. And I
hoping that you're still around.
Okay. Has he?
Just waiting.
Does he see this face? I was gonna get snatched up. I almost did get snatched up, but that's a story for another time. And so we actually stayed friends all these years. Like when he was in different relationships, we stayed friends. And I remember like literally being so angry with the Lord because I would try and date other people, and God would be very clear, like, "Hey, your husband is Nathan," and I would be like, "But he's living his life."
You want to tell him that?
I'm like, "Hello, sir." Last time he's not finding me. And so I was just very resentful, very like, it's weird that I'm having this conversation because last week, Saturday, I pulled up a journal of mine that I was writing when I was in university. This is 2013. And I'm literally writing to the Lord and I'm like, I don't understand. I feel like you're saying that he's my husband. He's living his life. And I feel silly. I feel silly believing this prophecy. I feel silly praying. I feel silly believing. And I'm just frustrated because I'm looking at him and I knew he knew. And I think that used to actually like make me more angry because I would look at him and I'm like, he knows. I just knew deep down that he also had the same revelation that God had told him. And so that used to bother me the most because I'm like, so you're really out here wasting my time. And he would call me his best friend. I was his female best friend and all of that. Anyway, we won't touch on this whole best friend.
Whether friend zoning.
Yeah. But I was like, this man is playing me. So anyway, in uni, I decided to try date and the relationships just would not work for one reason or the other. And I would, end up being heartbroken and sad. And God would just side-eye me and be like, I mean, I don't know where you're going because...
I hate to say I told you so, yeah. But...
And I'm like, but, right? And so anyway...
So you never had the conversation?
We never did. I used to try to kind of like... drop him, and he would not bite. He would not bite. And it's like, what, I wish he was here right now because when we talk about it now, he'll be like, yeah, I remember you saying that, and I knew what you were trying to say, but I just was like, no. I'm like, what? As in, this guy would be in full-on relationships, dating girls, like as in a like 1 year relationship, like, and I'm watching him like,
so you're there just watching.
you're really dating this girl. Yeah, dating as someone's boyfriend when you're someone's husband. Cool. And so yeah, I would go through a season of being really faithful to what the Lord was asking me to do. So there was times God would just ask me to pray for him, and especially with his walk with the Lord, because I think because we were friends, he was very open and transparent with me about kind of like what was going on, what that looked like, especially around uni. He was like, look, I'm not gonna lie, I just want to go out, I'm just doing my own thing, I'm hanging out with the guys, I'm going out clubbing, I'm doing whatever. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And so I would just pray for him, and he would always kind of come and confess his sins. I'm like, T, I messed up last week, like, man, I did this, and and I'll be really like, Lord, this is the man that you want me to marry. I am out here holding myself together, locking my legs, crossing my arms, and not
he's
for the so yeah, we stayed friends, and I kind of just like parked whatever the Lord had said. And I remember, I'll close up with this story to kind of show a really cool moment. So I remember around the age of 20, I prayed a very specific prayer, and I was like, Lord, if Nathan is really my husband, I want you to give me a dream where everything in the dream is yellow. Like the toaster is yellow, the car is yellow, the couch is yellow. I don't even like the color yellow, so it has to be so random like that, because I could dream about my favorite color. And if he's not my husband, I want you to give me a dream where everything is red. Again, the toaster is red, the car is red, the carpet's red, and this color has to really stick out. I went to sleep that night and I never had a dream. And that dream never happened. Fast forward about 3 years later, we start dating. I've jumped a lot in between. We start dating, and we had kind of agreed to date for 2 years and then get engaged afterwards. But after 11 months of dating, he proposes without without me knowing, and he proposes with a yellow diamond.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And it's so significant because I had always said I don't like colored diamonds, I want a clear diamond, and that's what I wanted. And he says he went to buy the ring that he knew I wanted. I'd showed him a couple of rings, and God was like, no, get her that ring. And he was like, she doesn't like colored diamonds. And so he left the shop, went back into the shop, called my best friend, and was like, I don't know what to do. I really feel the Lord strongly telling me to get this ring, and I don't want to mess it up, and I know what she likes, and there's not what she's like.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big deal.
Big deal. I'm jumping the timeline that we've set. We've said 2 years. I'm proposing after 11 months, and I really feel like I'm, doing my own thing, and I'm proposing with the wrong ring. And Erica just said to him, like, just do whatever you feel like the Holy Spirit is telling you to do. And so he got the ring, and he came, he proposed with this yellow ring. And I remember he was on his knees and he's proposing, he's saying this message, and I looked down and the ring has a yellow diamond in the middle. And the Lord was like, there you go, there's your confirmation. And it was the most profound, I know, ridiculous textbook child, baby, Bible baby child. And I was like, of course, God, this is how you would do it. Not in the dream that I asked for 3 years ago. But
not in the way that you think he's going to do it. In his own time, God will be God.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I've seen the hand of God throughout our entire lives. Who meets their husband at 11 years old? We've known each other for 20 years this year. 20 years. Our families are friends. I've known his parents my whole life. He's known my parents my whole life. His siblings are my siblings. I've known them. We've been in each other's houses since tiny. We were kids. We're running around, and yeah. So we get to have so much history with each other, in a real friendship. I think that's probably one of the favorite things about our marriage, is that we're friends. We're friends before anything else.
So you got married at what age?
I got married at 24. Like, I think it was like 25. Sorry. I got married 3 weeks after my 25th birthday. That's why I get confused with the 24 thing. So my
14 years.
Yeah, my birthday's in July. I got married in August. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been married 6 years this year. Crazy. It feels like I'm just a baby girl. I'm like,
we're both just baby girls.
I'm a child bride. Come on, like, I'm just a baby girl.
I mean, 25. Do you know what I always say to my husband? I said, because he's 4 years older than me. I said, you married me at such a young age. I said, how? I am a baby, okay? Yeah. I am a child.
A child.
What were you thinking?
Literally, I said to my parents, I'm like, this man's bride price? I'm like, I was a child. Where was I going? But you wanted to go. What could we do?
after the first month of marriage, I went to my parents. I said, how did you let me get married? I said, whose idea was? I said, I'm a child. Okay, now I'm responsible for like cooking and cleaning and washing. Who's that? What? I said, why did you? What?
A child, a baby.
I'm a child. I
A
am
child,
a child. Okay, and yeah, it's a lot.
girl.
But beautiful. But beautiful.
It is. It is. It is. I love it here. I love it here.
Okay, biggest lesson you've learned in marriage to date?
I'm not as great as I think I am.
My God, marriage will have you like looking at yourself in the mirror, like, who is she? Because that's not me. That ain't me.
That ain't me. Honestly, I think I had a lot of pride going into marriage. I really felt like I was this loving, forgiving, soft, person, and my husband had won the jackpot, and I'm just like the perfect wife. Like, wow, look at you. God has been so good.
God really blessed you
because
he loves you.
Like, you found the favor before you found the favor. I am the
honestly
favor. I just thought I was like the nicest person I'd ever met, and I really prided myself being like, I'm so loving, I'm so kind. Got married and I was far from loving and I was far from kind, and I was easily irritable, and I was very unforgiving, and I was very quick to anger, and I was like, oh, who's that girl?
Who is she?
I honestly was like, what? Me? I'm raising my voice.
Never.
I'm shouting. Who is this person? Oof. 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 I was shocked. My first year of marriage, I was shocked at the person that I was. Like,
yeah. I feel that. I feel that.
Had someone told me that I was going to act like that, I'd be like, sorry, pardon me. You know who raised me? I would never raise my voice to my husband. I'm a Proverbs 31 wife, okay? Yeah. I'm going to honor him. Oh no, I was out here clapping in this man's face, raising my voice, shouting at every inconvenience that would occur. Yeah. But I would thank God that marriage is a journey of consecration, and I no longer shout, and I've stopped clapping my hands, and I try
not the clapping. Do you know what?
So, yeah, and I'm not as great as I think I am. And, yeah. And my husband's very loving, and very slow to anger, actually. So, yeah.
We thank God. So is we thank God for those ones.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think I entered into marriage so ill-equipped. I was like, why did nobody tell me? This is what marriage is like. Marriage is a beautiful, like, God ordained, beautiful thing. It wasn't marriage. It was me. Like me. It was me. It really shows you, and like shows parts of you that aren't cute, and that people don't really get to see, and that you don't even know that are there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, you just think, I didn't even know I could do that. I didn't even know I could say that.
Honestly, I didn't even know that I could raise my voice. Like I always just say to Nathan, I dated 2 guys before I got married. Like, before getting married, I had 2 like serious relationships. And I said to him, if you spoke to those men and you were like, Tavonga is raising her voice shouting at me,
never believe you. Never.
Be, which Tavonga? You mean that sweet, delicate lily flower? What are you talking about? Like, the things triggered to the surface. Like, I was like, what is happening? I don't recognize this person, but yeah, it's definitely, marriage is for our consecration. It really is, because I'm grateful for the process of pruning. And yeah, I think I had a lot of pride. I think pride is something that the Lord has had to work on me over in different areas. And I think my character is something that I really elevated, and I really felt like I was a good person, and I was this person, and the Lord was like, hey, no one's good. Like, when scripture tells us that no one's good except the Father, it means that. Like, You are a flawed human being born into sin and made out of dust. And I think being married puts you in a vacuum that you don't get to be in other relationships, whether it's your siblings, whether it's friends, whether it's your parents, whether it's colleagues. There is a vulnerability and a rawness that your husband and your partner sees that no one else sees. And there's a way that they can trigger you that no one else
Just
can.
a small little just the smallest of things. Just a little thing, and it's
little. Yeah.
But it's I think it's such a beautiful journey, though. I think I've absolutely grown, and there's definitely been like a pruning process. There is a process that you go through that doesn't always look cute, or that doesn't always look nice. And I think we live in a day where it's always like insta perfect. Everything, where people on Bella Niger flossing their weddings, and everything looks glamorous and everything looks cute and polished, and people are posting reels about each other, feeding each other, and that's not always a reality, though. Especially just beginning like a marriage, you're putting two people who come from completely different worlds, have different backgrounds, different likes, dislikes, and you're literally like just like dropping them in house, because we didn't live together. I mean, we were Christian. We didn't live together before. So this, you're literally like, oh, happy wedding, now live together, and you're like learning this new person who has their complete different ways of working, and you're like, okay, now become one. Literally overnight, you're like, okay, you're one now. Go be married.
And it's fun, like you said, because we didn't live together too. And so you go from like seeing each other for date nights and date days.
Which is cute.
And it's cute. And you can't wait to see you again, you know?
Like, oh, I miss you. You go home, you're like, oh, I miss you, texting each other. Yeah, it's cute.
Good morning, sweetheart. Good morning, gorgeous. Good morning, beautiful. Like, I was living for those messages. Now we're like, morning. You know, everyone's like, you like to get a morning. Sometimes everyone's just kind of
like a grunt.
What they gotta do, you know? It's completely different. Like you said, it's so beautiful, and I'm very much somebody who's obsessed with growth and self-development. I'm just growing, so I love to look back and reflect and see how much I've grown in a space or in my character. And honestly, marriage, nothing's gonna grow you like becoming one with someone else.
I love this, and I do, like, I always say to people, like invite me to your bridal shower. Just invite me, like, let's have a real conversation. Some of this advice that I hear at bridal showers, I'm like, should I tell you now or after you get, like, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth. Not, you need to cook for him, you need to give him sex, like all of that stuff is great, but let's equip, like let's
talk about the rules.
Let's be honest.
My best friend is getting married in a few days, and so we were at her bridal shower, and people did advice cards. This is about 2 weeks ago, and one of the advice was like, never go to bed angry. And as it was, so sometimes you gotta go to sleep. Sometimes you just have to go to sleep.
Either you do an all-nighter where you're both awake.
Yep.
Or you're gonna go to sleep.
Like, it's all good and well. I understand the sentiment. I understand why people advise it, but sometimes it's just not practical. Sometimes you've even tried to talk and talk and talk, and you've gone around in circles and you're not getting anywhere. And sometimes you do need to go to sleep. And let's try again tomorrow, because no one is getting anywhere right now. We have done the 3 a.m.s in this house where we started talking at 7 and it's now 3 a.m, and you're both kind of like, what are we even talking about anymore at this point? And one of us, look, I think we should try shelf this and try again tomorrow. So I said to her, look, sometimes you have to go to sleep. Like, it is not always practical to do the don't sleep, because sometimes you got to nap, you know, and sometimes the other person needs space. Like, my husband is a space person. He needs time to process. I process verbally, so I can process as I'm thinking. He's not. He's an internal processor. So he actually needs time to, especially if it's like something that is quite deep and lengthy and nuanced and layered. He would prefer to have the space and have time to really think by himself, and then bring his collected thoughts in front of you, rather than, hey, right now, let's have this discussion that is going to change our lives. And I'm expecting you to just do this at 3 a.m. And so there's all these factors, and people will write down these really cute, cards like, don't go to bed angry. And you're like, sometimes go to bed. Sometimes try again the next day.
Try again. But we do you know what? Like, the older in marriage we become, the easier it is actually to just...
True. Very true.
Yeah. it definitely becomes easier
Very true.
because you're like, we're not going in it, right? Okay, let's think about this logically.
Yeah.
Are we getting divorced? No, we're not getting divorced. Is this a what? Like, because sometimes when you're fresh in marriage, you're like, like, okay, we're not. We've established. Ain't nobody going anywhere. We're here. Okay, are we gonna be here tomorrow? Yes. Okay, so
That
please,
perspective
sorry. Let's
changed
sleep in. Yeah.
how I
Because
argue.
sometimes when you're fresh in marriage, you've got energy, you got stamina, huh?
Babe,
You got strength.
babe,
After a while, you're like, I'm too old for this. Like so sorry.
the
Okay, let's go to bed.
that one. But you've
Okay.
nailed it. You've nailed it. When you've realized and you've established that you're not going anywhere,
Life changes. It will change your life. When you
will.
think you've got a choice, oh, you can do the most. You
And
can
I
do
thought
the
I had a choice,
absolute
I'm not
most.
gonna lie.
When you think I'm a fine girl, I can get, and somebody will be. You
Absolutely. The first 2 years, I would be like, do you know what? I just don't think either of us are happy here. Now I'm like, my friend, just be
like, what are we even doing here? Okay, like, what are we doing here? Is this just no? Okay. After a while, you realize we're not going anywhere, my guy. We're locked in. We are locked in. Let's apologize. I'm sorry. Let's go to bed. Like, let's go have ice cream and then just enjoy ourselves.
Yeah. And you become so quick to apologize when you realize that, well, actually, you said no one's going anywhere. I'm very quick to be like, babe, I'm really sorry for how I spoke to you early on. I was just, A, B, C, D, and I missed what you're trying to say. And whereas before, I would hold on to it and I'll be like, he's going to come and talk to me first. He will come and if he wants to talk to me, he'll talk to me. Now I'm very quick to be like, my dear,
when you're ready to talk, I'll be here. You know where to find me. We live in the same house. You know where to find.
Yep. No. The humility I walk in now. I'm as humble as pie. I told you the Lord had to do my pride.
Oh my gosh.
Big. The Lord had. Oh, we thank Him. Yeah, because I was gonna miss heaven because of that pride. I didn't even before I got married. Then I was like, oh, I think the most of myself. Wow.
Oh, high horse is what I said. I was on a very high, very. But where do we get that from? Like, where does that come from?
I don't know, because I think.
Where does that come from?
That's a question for both of us and our therapists.
Where does that come from? Because
okay, I think mine, and it'll kind of link to work and business and all of that. I think I was naturally like a high achieving child. Like I did really well in school. I became quite successful in work and business quite young. I opened my first business when I was 22. Yeah, and was making quite a lot of money at that time, especially for my age. And I think I think all these kind of like accolades and all these things that I had done, and like how people viewed me and how people spoke of me and my character, my conduct, and what people said to my parents about me and all of that. Honestly, the honest, blatant truth is it puffed me up. I was very much the golden child. I was very much the reference child. Like, oh, look at Tavonga. And you don't realize the subconscious damage that does to you, because you really start thinking, no, but look at Tavonga.
You don't know who I am. Like, do you not know?
And so even entering into marriage, there was a little bit of like, you're punching. Like, I'm not going to lie to you.
Deal. Like, it's okay. Alex, it's okay.
Yeah, I like you, but you're punching. And so I just thought that I was always right. I thought that, I just thought I was always right. I really felt like, and I think I'm a good communicator. So I think a lot of the times what my husband's disadvantage is that he didn't communicate well. So it's not necessarily that he was wrong or his point was wrong. He just didn't communicate as well as I did. And I could put my point across so much more better than him. And so a lot of the times we left both the argument thinking that I was correct. And it's only now
you vocalized it
that I can be honest and say, hey, and I think I could realize that was a weakness in him as well. So I would really articulate myself super well. Whereas now I will be like, okay, so what I'm hearing you trying to say is, and then I'll repeat what he's trying to say in a more eloquent way to give him more language for what he's trying to say. And I'll be like, okay, and that's a fair point, and I hear you, and you're right. Whereas before I was like, great. I realized
I'm gonna use that
Honestly, and I was treating him like he was my op, like he was my enemy, and it's as if there was like an imaginary scoreboard in my head of how
Oh
many
my god.
could I win and how many times could I be right. And I'm like, no, but we're actually on the same team. Like, this is actually my
And
teammate.
that's a big realization. We are on
Mhm.
the same team. We're not enemies.
Yeah, yeah,
This is all the stuff that you
yeah.
kind of
No,
just learn and figure
I
out in
think
marriage. Nobody teaches you these things.
nobody, and I don't think, I think it's hard to teach them though. I think you have to
A
experience it.
heads up would have been nice. No, a heads up would have been like a heads up would have been great. Like, hey, by the way, okay, you might come across some of these challenges,
Would
and
you have?
if you do, I would have I would have appreciated it.
Would you have listened?
I would have. Let me tell you, I went into marriage with you know, Cinderella and Prince Charming.
Yeah.
Okay, the idea that interceding for our family, I genuinely believed there would be like it would just be peace, kumbaya, and shalom. Like, I don't know whether that was my own delusion or like I don't know what that was, but I believe that it was like a fairy tale ending. There would be no there would,
Maybe
like especially like if you marry a man who knows Jesus. I'm like, there is no he would never like he would like
he would never hurt my
he would,
feelings.
God, God would just God would just speak to him, you know? God would just speak to him and tell him everything that I need. And same
Mhm.
way God would speak to me. And like, you know, we have consecrated our relationship. It
Yeah.
belongs to Jesus. What could go wrong? What's the worst that could happen? Like, I
Mm.
believe that. I really did. And I don't know where that came from, but I really, really believed. I believed it
Wow.
wholeheartedly. So when any like
And where
disagreement
did
or
that
any
come?
argument, I I don't even know.
What was your parents' marriage like? Like, did you ever see them disagree? Did you ever see them argue? Did you ever
Not
see them go?
really. No.
Hey,
Like
okay.
they but then again, like they've been married what 30 something years. So they kind of
Mhm,
just got on with it.
mhm,
So they had their rhythm, they had their things. I was like,
mm,
oh, cool.
mm.
I wasn't there in their first year or five of marriage. So I didn't see the beginning, but I saw the end. I was like, I see the during, I see the 30 years of growing together and all of these things. So I didn't
So
I didn't
interesting.
I didn't anticipate it. So yeah, I then got the shock. I was like, we argue. That means God has not called this. God does not want. Like, it's not meant to be. Okay, it's not. I believe that. I really like. I got married when I was like 24. I really
Mm.
genuinely believe that. Yeah. So
Oh, girl,
lessons I've learned.
you've learned. That's what matters. You've learned, and that's what. And now you can give that advice to someone else going into
Oh, when
this
people
journey.
get married, I'm like, come through. Like,
Come, sit, come, sit. I found that even when you try to tell people, they just don't listen. Like, I got married. I was one of the first people to get married in my friendship circle. So my immediate like best friends, it's four of us, I was the first one there. And then even like my church friends, I was the first one there. Yeah, yeah. A lot of them got married like a year or two after me, but I was the first like off, both of my kind of like friendship circles to get married. And so when they were trying to get married now, I was like, hey, just so you know, and you can tell they'll be kind of side-eyeing you, like, yeah, that's your own problem. Like,
that's
that's
you. That's your own.
me
That
and
could
my
never
life.
be me. Never
Yeah,
be me. Never
yeah,
be us. Like
yeah.
we are locked in. We're good.
We love each
Okay.
other. Maybe you guys don't love each other. Like yeah. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe even if someone sat me down, I would have not listened because I would have just thought, just like you, like I'm marrying my best friend. Like I know Nathan. Like it's not like I met Nathan when I was like 22 and we've only known each other for 2 years. Because although we got engaged after 11 months, we had known each other since we were 11, and not just known each other from a distance. Like we were friends. Like he was one of my best friends. Like I said, he called me his best friend. So I felt like I know this person well. Our families know each other. His parents are pastors. He's in the Lord. His parents are covering his marriage. My mom is covering our marriage, etc., etc. And so even had someone tried to tell me, I would have just felt like, "Aw, I'm really sorry you're going through that."
I'll pray for you. Okay.
We'll pray for you guys. We'll pray for you. We'll add you to our prayer list.
Oh gosh. That's an interesting one.
Mm.
Okay, outside of marriage, I remember when I asked you to be a speaker at the event on the 7th of June, the Vodka Hotel. new season event, and you really said, like, I have no 7-point blueprint on business. Like, I can't give you that because I don't have it. And you said something that really like rung with me, because you said something along the lines of like, I'm really just doing this with Jesus. Like, I just do what he tells me to do. And I
Literally.
thought that was such an interesting perspective, because a lot of people want to follow these like 7-step plans, and a lot of people think, Jesus is just in the church and then you're on your own for everything else. You're on your own for your marriage, you're on your own for business. Like,
Yeah.
he's not interested in all of these other things. So
Mhm.
how has your faith impacted your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that I believe that the Lord has entrusted me with wealth because of how I view money. My whole thing with money is that it's not mine. Lord,
Mm.
this belongs to you. And so you tell me what to do with it. You tell me who to bless. You tell me which ministries to sow into. You tell me which friend to gift. You tell me, whose baby shower I should throw. You tell me whose meal I should pay for, or whatever, right? And so I really feel like when the Lord knows he can trust you with money, he will do so. And so I've always felt a grace to create wealth, because I've always said to him, this is not mine. This belongs to you. And I have such a very open-handed approach with money, with my business. Lord, this is fully yours. And so you tell us what to do. And how kind of me and Nathan deal with my husband and I work together, we own our business together. And we always say, there's a season where we invest, there's a season that we just give generously, there's a season that we save, and there's a season that we just spend. And I love the season that we get to spend. That's my favorite season. And what dictates the season is honestly the leading of the Lord. Like, Lord, what are you saying? Literally this afternoon, like before this call, we were in the kitchen and I said to him, hey, I really feel that we need to give this sum of money to this ministry, and we really wanted to do it last year and we kind of never got to do it, and we kind of talked about it, and then life and we didn't get the chance to, and now we have another opportunity. They're having an event and I really believe we should sow quite a significant amount in it. And my husband just said, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. There was no, oh, okay, wait, we need to look at the numbers. It was, okay, like, if you feel like the Lord is telling us to give this amount of money, we're just going to do it. And so I think that's the first thing, is that I believe I've been entrusted to create wealth because he knows that I will always be obedient with that wealth. That's the first thing. And then when it comes to decisions that we make around it, a lot of it is me asking Nathan, like, hey, what do you feel like God is saying? Like, sometimes we make decisions and then they just don't go well, and we ask each other, like, did we miss it? Did we not hear his voice well? What happened? Because we always pray about every kind of like business venture that we go into. And then another thing is that I feel like he gives direction and he gives wisdom far beyond what you could learn in a book, in a workshop, at a conference, because there's things that I've done and I've stepped into without any blueprint, and the way he's allowed that thing to flourish is crazy, or just even favor. So in our sector, we bid for kids on kind of like a bidding tendering system. And a lot of the times we get kids just through relationship with social workers or relationship with commissioning teams or placement officers who see the way we work and they love how we work, and we gain favor with them. And then they're like, wow, we really want to continue to use your service, for example. Very recently, we decided to venture out of what we do in terms of 16 to 18 and start doing 18 plus in supported living, and I'd never done anything like that, and we've been doing it for the last 6 months. And even how it happened, it can only be the Lord. Like, it was something that the idea came from God. The favor we then got to start again came from God, came from the Lord. And then as we're in it, the favor we've continued to get. We got one client within a couple of months. The same social worker was like, I want to give you another client. Just last month, like, hey, can you please take on these clients? And we're like, oh, whoa, we're 6 months into this, and
Wow.
like giving off every client to us because she's like, I love how you guys work. But going into this was such a God idea. It was like very random, kind of afterthought, and we just did it. And so in terms of how he influences is that we let him lead, and sometimes it's an impression in our hearts, and I go to Nathan about it and we pray about it. Sometimes I see a business opportunity in a very practical, very, normal way, and we pray and we ask the Lord, should we venture out? We're actually trying to make a decision about closing one of our supports accommodations, and we're trying to hear God's voice about it. We don't know whether we should close. We don't know whether we should continue opening. continue running. And just again, today we're having this conversation like, babe, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you discerning? You know, should we close the house? Should we keep going for a couple of months and make a decision? Blah, blah, blah. Because we're not making money. The numbers are not making sense and the profit's not making sense for that house. And so a lot of it is consistently going to him. Now, the way that I operate with the Lord is sometimes, not sometimes, let me be honest, I would say 90% of the time, I make a decision in faith and then I allow him to bless it or to pull me back. I don't always wait for a dream or a prophetic word. I believe that he's given me wisdom. I believe that he's given me a brain and I can make decisions with the mind of Christ. So I'm not doing 7-day fasts to hear a decision about something. I'm being practical. Sometimes I'm looking at the numbers, like I said earlier, I'm looking at the profit margins. We're saying, is this making sense for what we're doing? Is this aligned with the direction we're going? And I'm believing that as I'm making these decisions, the Lord is either blessing it or he's correcting and he's pulling us back and saying, no guys, I don't think you should do this. Or I'm feeling this like discomfort around it. And I'm kind of like trying to discern, is it me? Is it my fear? Is it nerves? Is it him? And we're doing everything with him. He's the third director within the business. You know, it's not just me and my husband, it's me, my husband and the Lord. And we're talking, we're negotiating, we're having directors meetings with the Lord and we're saying, God, what are we doing? What are you saying? You know, in the next 6 months, should we do this? Should we do this? Should we stop this? Should we start this? And so, yeah, I can't even imagine doing business without him. And so when I said to you, look, if you want me to come and tell people this is how you get into it, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have
7-step process to make money.
You know,
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm honestly trying to follow his lead, trying to hear his voice. And like I said, I think sometimes I get it wrong, and it's always unfortunate in business. You get it wrong sometimes way later. Then
costs a lot.
Yeah. But I get it wrong, and we think that we've heard right, and we both come in agreement. And I think it's gonna sound so Christian and so cliche, but I let my husband make the last decision. So I hear what he's got to say. He hears what I've got to say, and he says, okay, fine. And I say, okay, so yes or no? You know, I'm like, because I want to hide in that. I'm like, Lord, if I'm following the principles and I'm
the head of the house has said
needs to be some level of protection over what we're doing, because I am trying to do this the right way. And it's very contrary to my nature. I'm very much a leader, very much go-getter, very much kind of want to move fast, make decisions. And I did that, I think, for most part of our marriage initially, until I was like, no, God, actually, I'm not following the order. I'm very good at following it in my household. But because we are in a very unique position where we work together, I separated work and home life. So in home life, I was happy to submit. In business, I wasn't, because I felt like I'm the expert in this field. I'm the one that kind of like has come in with the business, come in with the experience. I know what I'm doing. And so I used to make most of the decisions. And so I really felt in the last 2 years, it'll really be like, actually, no, because you're in business with your husband, that covering and that submission still needs to be applied in that space. And I was like, what are you talking about, Willis? And so, yeah, now I literally say to him, okay, so what's the final decision? I use that line very intentionally to make sure that there's clarity that whatever decision he is making is the final decision. And so, yeah, it's kind of, again, how God influenced our business, that even in our running, I allow him to kind of just be like, okay, so, and sometimes he goes with my idea, but I want him to say it. I want him to be like, okay, the decision is we're going to go with your idea because it's the best idea. Okay, cool. Let's try that out. So yeah, it's kind of what work, business, marriage all look like, because they blend for me very uniquely.
Do you know what? And there's so much I'd love to unpick here. Like, even talking about submission and talking about partnering with your husband and doing business with your husband, that's that's a completely different ball game in itself, with like different parts of you. And it's like, how do you separate work? How do you separate like business? And when do you know when to have a business conversation? And actually, like, we're just at home, like, and when to separate that. But we're not going to have this conversation.
We're not.
This is for the 7th of June at the Voco Hotel. We will be unpicking and going into detail about business, about being a Black woman in business.
Yep.
Being a Christian in business, being a wife in business, and all of those things, and really just understanding who has God created me to be. And I think there's so much conversation around purpose, like what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And a lot of people are waiting for the like God to hear God's audible voice, like, hey, my daughter,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is your purpose. Go ye and walk in it. And sometimes that's not it. Sometimes it's a you're good at something, like really follow
yeah,
that. Sometimes it's just that I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing in this season right now. And I feel like a lot of people are just holding back. They're holding back doing what God has
mm,
created them to do. And I really believe that there's such a call into the marketplace, especially for women
yeah,
who are looking down upon themselves, who think, oh, they couldn't possibly, or they don't have the skills, they don't have the this, they're not qualified because one reason or another. And the purpose of the event, the new season on the 7th of June, is really bringing women together who are like-minded women to have these honest conversations. Like sometimes you think you're the only one thinking that you're not good enough,
yeah,
thinking that you could possibly do this. And when you get in a room and you realize, oh my gosh, me too. And actually, oh my gosh, that's a lie. I
yeah.
can do it. I've seen Tawanga start her business and
Mm-hmm.
thrive. Actually, I can do it. And that's the
Agree.
purpose of the event. So the
Mm-hmm.
description, the links will be in the description. You
Yes.
have to be in the room. If you're in the Midlands, be there. I honestly, like, I cannot wait. It's going to be such a fantastic time. Um, and thank you to Tawanga for being here. Oh my gosh, I've had such a great time, and I cannot wait to be in that room with you on the 7th of June. What would you say, Tawanga, as we wrap up? What would you say to maybe the younger you, 21
Mm,
year old Tav, or 24-year-old Tav, who doesn't really know what God wants them to do, is
mhm.
unsure, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of voices, social media is saying a lot. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's just not sure what God has for them and just feels maybe stuck or confused or just not knowing like where to start?
Yeah. One of my favorite names for the Lord is Good Shepherd. And I believe in Good Shepherd because I believe that He's constantly guiding, constantly leading. And so I've learned in business, like I think I mentioned, to take risks, to make decisions, to start, and to trust that the Good Shepherd is faithful enough to redirect me if I'm going the wrong way,
Mm.
to comfort me when it goes wrong, and to encourage me in the journey. And so I would say start that thing. If it's the wrong thing, He's faithful enough to redirect. If it's the right thing, He will champion you. If it's the wrong thing, He'll give you rest in the process as it pulls you back. But just start. If you think you should go and do nursing, start. And if you find out halfway through the term that actually you made the wrong decision, you can quit. You can quit. If you feel like you're called to business, start. If you realize, woof, I'm a 9 to 5 girly and I like the security of knowing where my money is coming from every single month, then you can go back to that 9 to 5. But just start. That's kind of what has allowed me to do this for the last 9 years. I've just started. I'm currently founding something new that's completely different to what I'm doing. And it's been really scary. And I've felt so out of my depth because it's so contrary to what I've been doing the last 9 years. And we're building something very innovative, very new, very fresh, very different, nothing like it on the market. And I'm scared. And the thing that has given me the confidence is trusting that the Lord is a good shepherd. And so I would say to baby Tavonga, because definitely 21 is a baby, so it's 24. Just start.
It's
Start.
30.
30 is a baby. They're just babies. Just start. He's faithful. He really is. He's good. He's good in nature, and He's not going to allow you to waste 7 years of your life. So start. He will redirect. And yeah, that would be my advice. Thank you so much also for having me. Thank you for creating this space for women. Thank you for putting effort and time. And I can tell that you're putting so much excellence in what you're doing. And even the event, I know it's going to be amazing. I know that a lot of women are going to be challenged and they're going to be encouraged. And thank you for giving people like me a platform that would never really go for something like this, because it's just out of my depth. I'm like, I just want to be at home making money quietly. I don't want to put myself out there wise. And so thank you for pushing me. You're indirectly, even the panel and the people that you've picked, you're pushing them and encouraging them as they are doing so for the audience. And so yeah, I'm excited to see how this also grows, and this platform and this movement, I should call it, how this grows and the impact it's going to have on so many women, Black women, Christian women. And yeah, I'm proud to know you. Yeah, this is exciting. So see you on the 7th of June.
Absolutely. And I think on this thing of like just start, and sometimes you will feel nervous. Sometimes like there will never be an absence of or like the right conditions. Like I remember when like the idea of this event came. I'm not an events person. I'm just gonna have to be honest. I'm that person who did not throw birthday parties for themselves because I just don't like the fuss and the drama.
Yeah.
So I was like, God, you want me to host an event?
Event. Mm.
You me? There's
A
no
birthday
way.
party, you can trust that your friends are going to come because you're going to invite them. An event, you are trusting that people are going to buy
I'm
into
like,
the
I
event.
don't even know women like I honestly I was like, this is so out of my like being very transparent. Like I was like, this is so out of my comfort zone. This isn't something that I necessarily like would jump to do because it's not necessarily me. But
Mm.
sometimes it is like taking the risk and just saying, do you know what, God, I trust you. This is I've surrendered and I've given you my life. And if you want me to host an event for women, you're gonna have to show me who are the speakers, where
Mm.
everything is gonna come, like trusting him for the provision. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's doing it nervous, doing it unsure, but just starting. And
Yeah.
this is the starting point, right?
Yes.
So we're doing it. We're all doing it.
We are all doing it.
Fantastic. See you on the 7th of June. Again, the link will be in the description below. Thank you, Tawanga.
Yes. See you, ladies.